Welcome to the NAPE YouTube site. Now today let me introduce you to Mr. M, who is a trained counsellor and will explain why mindfulness is such a powerful strategy to combat stress and anxiety, and what it actually is.
Yeah, so we're going to start off by just taking a look at what is stress and anxiety. So what is it? Are there differences between these two words? Why are there these two different words? We've got a picture here of a chap looking a bit stressed out. Must be what's going on here. Well, he's got stuff on his plate, hasn't he? He's got stuff that needs doing, and I would say that's stress. That's stuff in the external world that stresses us. It's a stressor. And what he's feeling inside, perhaps, is anxiety. And how we tend to feel anxiety is a very bodily felt sense. And we all feel it in different ways, don't we? So for some of us, it might be a tight jaw, might be grinding the teeth or something like that. For some of us, it might be shoulders up here, which is a very primal response, actually. That's really about protecting the neck from attack. And we can go into that in a bit more detail, perhaps a bit later or in another session. But also, you might feel some churning in the guts. You might feel some difficulty breathing, maybe some hyperventilation. There's all different ways that we can experience anxiety. Tension in the legs as well. That's preparing to run. So that's the flight of fight, flight and freeze. You might have come across these terms. Fight, flight and freeze. So what is going on here? What's it all about? Well, in a nutshell, it was to serve us originally back in the day. So this fight, flight and freeze response saved our bacon. It got us out of trouble and meant that we could, continue our existence without being eaten by things. So if our brains decided there was something to worry about in our surroundings, then our amygdala, which is our brain's watchdog effectively, decides that it's time for our body to be flooded with two chemicals, one being cortisol and one being adrenaline. Nearly forgot. One being cortisol, one being adrenaline. And cortisol is what makes us feel really anxious, and adrenaline gets us ready, gets us pumped, ready to do something. And we've got three different responses available to us. We've got fight, which is stand up to whatever is attacking us or likely to attack us. We've got flight, which is run away. And then we've got freeze, which is the most primal response of all. And this is literally just play dead. Play dead, stay small, stay quiet, stay still, and hopefully we're not eaten. That's the idea. So these are very primal responses. And to illustrate this, I've got a picture here. There you go. So this you will see is a friendly looking caveman. We'll call him Bob. Bob the caveman. Here he is. And you can see he seems quite friendly, and he's got a nice friendly expression on his face. Kind of guy you probably want as your next door neighbour, something like that. And so we'll say he's easygoing, he's friendly, and he's an optimist. But you can see another caveman has appeared beside him there, and this is Bob's mate. And Bob's mate looks a bit different. He looks a bit bug-eyed and is sweaty a bit. And we'll call him Bill. And Bill is a pessimist. He thinks bad things are going to happen. He's stressed out and he's cautious. Yeah. So we've got these two different types of caveman wandering through the jungle one day, and there's a rustle in the bushes. There's a rustle in the bushes. And the big question is, how will they respond differently? And the answer is, of course, they will respond very differently, because Bob might think, well, it's probably lunch, so he'll go and investigate the bush. Or he might think, ooh, maybe it's my new girlfriend waiting for me in the bush. Who knows? But whatever it is, he'll probably go and investigate, whereas Bill, of course, will freak out and run as fast away as his legs will carry him. And a couple of million years ago, unfortunately for Bob, quite often, well, it wasn't food and it wasn't a girlfriend, it was a saber-toothed tiger or something like that. So quite often the Bobs of this world got eaten. These easy outgoing, friendly, optimistic types got eaten more often than the Bills of this world, the stress-cautious pessimists who ran at the slightest sign of trouble. And as a consequence, of course, Bill had more of an opportunity to get married to Wilma, to give birth to Pebbles, and a couple of million years later, he's passed on his genes to us. So his stress-cautious pessimistic genes have spread like wildfire. They saved his bacon, and they saved other Bills of this world, and meant that the human race kept on going. But there aren't many saber-toothed tigers running around the streets of the UK and wider nowadays. And this function that saved us and looks after us can still sometimes save us and look after us too, but quite often it's triggered by things that don't serve us. So instead of it being a saber-toothed tiger or a rustle in the bushes, perhaps it's a bill coming through the post, or maybe even a loud sound, or certain people saying certain things. We all get triggered in different ways, and so when it comes to generalized anxiety disorder or social anxiety, this is our fight and flight and freeze system has perhaps got a little bit out of control. It's become almost overly sensitive. So that amygdala that I was talking about, that the brain's watchdog, has become overly sensitive to things in the outside world. So go and look at the brain for a second. There are, in some circles, their belief that there are three parts of the brain. You've got, it's a bit like a tree, really. So you've got the orange bit there, that's the reptilian brain. That's the oldest part of the brain. So back in the day when we were reptiles, if you believe in evolution, that is, we only had a small brain, and it just got us out of trouble, really. Got us out of trouble, got us fed, and allowed us to procreate, pass on our genes. So that just manages instincts, but it's still with us to this day, which is why I say our brain is like a tree, because the part that's in the center is the oldest part, and as you go out it gets newer and newer. So the first part of the brain, the oldest part of the brain, is the reptilian brain, and it just managed instincts. It got us out of trouble. And then in the longer term, we developed the limbic system, which is supposed to manage emotions. And you can see that whacking great big purple bit there. That's the neocortex. At the front, you've got the prefrontal cortex, and that's responsible for reasoning, planning, attention to detail, forming interpersonal relationships with other people, empathy, pretty much everything that we hold dear in our Western culture, to keep us in society and keep us from knocking each other over the head too much. So you might be thinking, well, why are you bringing this up? So what, Matthew? Why are you talking about this stuff? Well, I'll tell you why. Only one part of the brain can be in the driving seat at any one time. So it's either the old brain or the new brain. The old brain here, I'm talking about the reptilian brain and the limbic system, and the amygdala is included in that. And the new brain being the neocortex. That's what it means. Neo means new. Neocortex, new brain. So when we're feeling calm, relaxed, easygoing, we're feeling able to focus and concentrate, remember things, we're able to be friendly to other people and feel empathy for them. It's our new brain in the driving seat, and that's great. But unfortunately, we all get triggered, and we all get triggered by different things. But when we get triggered, something happens, and the old brain takes over the driving seat. So it's like, go on, shift over, new brain. It's my turn to get involved here. So the old brain gets a chance in the driving seat, and the new brain has to move over to the passenger seat. What that means really is that when you're stressed out, your reptilian brain and limbic system are in the driving seat, and your neocortex is not, which is responsible for memory, attention to detail, planning, reasoning, feeling empathy for other people. So when you're stressed out, and I'm sure everyone has experienced this, when you're stressed out, It's difficult to remember things, difficult to plan, difficult to focus, and it's difficult to notice other people. It's almost like you're a bit blinkered. I just need to get out of here. I just need to get this done. You know, it's a very kind of blinkered way of being, where we're more concerned about protecting ourselves or getting out of trouble than we are about anything else. So that's why the new brain's not in the driving seat. It's not functioning quite as well. The old brain is in the driving seat. Let's just get out of trouble is the primary agenda. So I'm going to create a bit of pain now, as every good presentation should do, before offering the solution, of course. If you stress out a lot, your neocortex will actually shrink, and this can happen whilst you're still in the womb. So if mum is stressing out as she's moving around her everyday life, cortisol is one of the few things that's passed through the mother to the baby, unfortunately, and that affects the brain development of the baby. It means the amygdala gets bigger. The old brain is more active. And that can carry on as we come out into the world. Our first few years of life are very, very precious and sensitive. So our brains are very plastic, and they respond to everything that happens to us. We respond to our parents' pupil size, their body language, so they don't need to show us in very explicit ways that they're stressed out or that there's something wrong. It can be in very implicit ways, and the baby will pick up on that, and the amygdala and the old brain will get bigger as a result as the brain continues to develop. The brain develops so much in the first couple of years of life. If it did all its developing inside the womb, there wouldn't be space for it to come out. So there we are. So yeah, that's quite a painful thought, the fact that your neocortex will shrink in size and your limbic system will grow. Unfortunately, this is going to cause you to stress out even more. And also over time you're going to struggle to concentrate, plan, form interpersonal relationships, all that kind of stuff. So you can see here it's a bit like a snowball effect. You know, the more we stress out, the more we're going to stress out. Well, it's a scary thought when you think about it, isn't it? So what I'm getting at here is I'm talking about plasticity of the brain. It can change over time. And so rather than being this kind of grey lump in your head that never changes, never shifts, it's actually more like a garden. And what we plant in it in the way of seeds is what grows. So when you start taking an active role in what gets planted in our garden, and one of the ways that we can do that, a really, really key way that we can do that, is by practicing mindfulness. So mindfulness is a practice that involves focusing and then refocusing in the present moment. And by doing that, you're actually exercising your new brain. And by exercising your new brain, that means it gets bigger. So the research shows that in 8 weeks, if you practice mindfulness for 45 minutes every day for 8 weeks, your neocortex will increase in mass, unbelievably. And not only that, but your amygdala decreases in size as well. So there you go. There's a little bit for you on stress, anxiety, and how mindfulness can be useful.
Thank you, Mr. M. We do hope you found this video helpful, and please don't forget to subscribe.